On the rundown for this Friday edition of the San Francisco 49ers Report, we have some Niners injury news on right guard Aaron Banks and safety Talanoa Hufanga. Niners general manager John Lynch speaking publicly about Brandon Aiyuk for the first time in a little while. We have the most recent reporting on the Aiyuk front, and Kyle Shanahan plans to play his starters for a little while against the New Orleans Saints on Sunday Night Football for preseason game number 2. Speaking of that game, going to be doing a watch party for it right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Hope to see all of you there. Hit that subscribe button for daily shows on the Niners that are insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, and involve you, the Niner gang. As for the latest 49ers injury news, this news just coming in moments ago as the Niners just got off the practice field in Santa Clara. Off day tomorrow during training camp. Left guard Aaron Banks had surgery for a broken pinky finger. Kyle Shanahan saying he hopes that Aaron Banks is going to be able to come back for week 1 on Monday Night Football against the New York Jets. Nick Zakelj, who has been playing good football as a raw prospect, offensive tackle is what he played at Fordham. He's been playing well on the interior for San Francisco. He filled in for Aaron Banks as Spencer Burford and John Feliciano continue to be hurt. Zakelj, as I mentioned, had been filling in at center. I thought he played well against Tennessee during that first preseason game. Occasionally, he has been with the first team, and now he is going to play left guard for this Niners offense. Kyle Shanahan also provided an injury update on rookie wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. It's been an unfortunate start for the 31st overall pick out of Florida. First, he had a hamstring injury, and then he hurt his shoulder in practice. Kyle Shanahan said he's had some unfortunate deals coming into training camp with those injuries. He said he needs the reps, needs to practice just like all of these guys do. Niners are hoping that he's going to be able to ramp up his physicality level coming up here soon. Next couple of days, next week or two, in the foreseeable future for sure. Talanoa Hufanga, injury update for the former All-Pro safety. He received some positive news from his doctor's visit on Thursday, and we talked about that on Thursday's show, how he was going to visit with his doctor. If all things went well, then he was going to start to ramp up and try to get back on the football field soon. Hufanga will be able to ramp up after receiving good news from his doctor, and moving forward, the Niners are saying he's going to be able to be more aggressive with his recovery and conditioning, doing football-related activities, and then from that point, the Niners will assess whether or not he can return to the actual practice field. So that is some Niners injury news on this Friday following another training camp practice in Santa Clara. As for what John Lynch said on Brandon Aiyuk this morning on the radio, I believe it was on KNBR, quote, "The communication has still been really good, both with Brandon and his agent, and we're trying to figure out solutions. I'm always hopeful, and I can tell you we feel the urgency. The season is approaching, and we have ample time." So kind of a conflicting remark there. We feel the urgency. We know that we need him back. We know that he's an excellent player. The season's coming, but we have ample time. And we're a little less than a month away from the Niners taking on the New York Jets in primetime in week 1. Jets are a team that have a really good defense. You're going to need Brandon Aiyuk. They have a really good secondary led by Sauce Gardner. Very good defensive line. They've bulked up their offensive line. Aaron Rodgers is back, healthy, coming off that torn Achilles. He has a couple of good weapons, led by Garrett Wilson at receiver, Breece Hall at running back. This is a formidable opponent for San Francisco in week 1. That's why it's so important to, at some point soon-ish, to get Brandon Aiyuk on the field if you're going to re-sign him, and to get Trent Williams back at training camp to get ramped up for week 1. I know that the Niners have the long view here, and they just played in the Super Bowl in February. They've had a lot of short off seasons of late, making it the 4 NFC titles and 2 Super Bowls over the last 5 years. But the NFL season is quickly approaching here, and it's not like you have a cupcake game in week 1. You have to get off to a fast start, in my opinion, this year, because if you don't, then some of that stuff from last year and the Super Bowl defeat starts to linger. I also think the NFC West is going to be much improved, and I think the NFC in general is going to be a very difficult conference with a lot of Super Bowl contenders here. More from John Lynch. He said the good news is Brandon is a really, really hard worker. He's taking great care of himself this offseason. He's in fantastic shape, but there's things you have to do on the football field in getting yourself there with our team. We saw this last year with Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa signed the Wednesday before the season opener. He was not his normal dominant Nick Bosa self for like the first month of the season. It took him a little while to get going. He even said during Super Bowl week and admitted that I wasn't the same guy because live game reps are different. You can't replicate those. Live game speed cannot be duplicated or replicated. You need to be able to experience that. Practicing helps you get there. Playing in the preseason helps you get there. Playing in actual games, of course, helps you become seasoned. And you want to be able to have your marquee players and your starters getting reps, working on continuity, working on communication, all those little nuances, because that's how the game of football operates, right? It is a very complex game where you can't just run and gun and patch things up on the fly. That's why training camp is so arduous, and that's why the lead up to the regular season requires so much maintenance, hard work, and a lot of practices. Furthermore, from Lynch, I wish I knew when we could get a deal done. As I said, we started early. It consumed a lot of our time, my time. I don't like that it's taken this long, but it has. And you deal with the challenges that you're faced with. I can tell you one thing. Lots of times when I'm talking to other GMs around the league on a variety of situations, a lot of them will call and say, just pulling for you in that situation. I was in one last year, something like that. One thing they always like to say is, man, we'd love to have your problems. You've got a lot of great players there, and I think that's kudos to this entire organization. Our talent acquisition has been really good. Clearly it has. That's why the Niners have such a loaded roster, but that also puts pressure on San Francisco to capitalize on having this great roster in winning a Super Bowl. And that's why it's paramount to get Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams back, because they move the needle as far as you trying to reach your goal of winning a Super Bowl. And then this coming from Mike Garafolo. This is the latest update on the Aiyuk front as far as the reporting goes. And this works off of what he reported the other night when he said the Niners have increased their offer and both sides are close. There are a couple of things that need to be ironed out. Quote, the 49ers feel like they've already caved enough and they've caved more than they wanted to. They have come up significantly from their offer in the spring. And Garafolo was talking about how Brandon Aiyuk wants an adjustment on the final year of the new deal with San Francisco. And I had theorized when Garafolo had reported that both sides are close, they agree on a lot of the structures of this contract, but there are a couple of things that they need to iron out. What are those things? It could be guaranteed money. It could be average annual value. It could be years. And Garafolo saying that Aiyuk wants an adjustment on the final year of his new deal. That could be a new year added to his contract. It could be more average annual value or guaranteed money on that final year of his deal. Both sides are stubborn. Both sides want to win the negotiation, and that's part of the reason why this has taken absolutely forever. Lastly, here on this Friday show, Kyle Shanahan saying on Thursday he plans to play the starters for a possession or two, a series or two against the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. And in my Saints-Niners preview, in which I talked about some players who I'm looking forward to watching on Sunday Night Football, again, we're doing a watch party for that game, I started off the show with talking about how I think it's important that the Niners play their starters. At some point, you need to knock off the rust and you need to get a good feel for game speed, and you need to just start your preparations while playing in an actual game for week 1 against New York. And it's significant because oftentimes, especially nowadays across the NFL, teams will do joint practices with other teams. And they will measure how their starters and how their team plays and performs against that team in joint practices because that is close to a live game situation. Well, as we know, San Francisco's so banged up that they had to cancel their joint practices with New Orleans, which were scheduled to take place on Thursday and Friday before the Sunday game. So the Niners didn't have those live reps against another team outside of themselves. So I think this is a smart play for Kyle Shanahan to play his starters against New Orleans. It'll be a cool experience for the fans at Levi's Stadium to see some of the Niners ones in action on Sunday night, and obviously it adds some juice for our watch party. So just wanted to give you some Niners updates here. Injury front, Aiyuk situation, playing the starters. Week 2 of the preseason against New Orleans. That Week 3 preseason game will be against the Raiders. It is a very late game, regardless of where you're watching from. Of course, we'll be still doing a watch party for that game as well. So hope you all have a great Friday. You're getting set to have a great weekend. Going to join Larry Krueger at some point, hopefully over the next couple of days on his YouTube channel to talk some more Niners on that front. So be on the lookout for that.